Welcome to another edition of the PhinManiacs.com podcast. I am your host, Louis Sung, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Chad Ronnebaum, and joining us this evening is Chris Early, otherwise known as Duke. We call the Earl 007 on Twitter, and one of my very close friends. How are you today, gentlemen?
Good.
Doing good, Lewis. Doing good. How about you?
I am actually pretty tired. It's been one hectic day, that's for sure. The start of free agency and the Dolphins have been all over the place all day, re-signing their own players, signing a few other players who used to be Dolphins, and then this new guy, Tim Larson, who I'm sure we'll get more information on him later, but he apparently will be competing for a guard spot. Whether he succeeds or not, I'm not going to make any aspersions to that just yet, because from one person told me he's similar to Jermon Bushrod, which is, I don't know if that's a compliment or a veiled insult. So we'll look into that a little bit later. But first thing is first, we're going to talk about what happened yesterday, which is that the Dolphins re-signed two of their top priorities in free agency and their own guys, defensive end Andre Branch and, of course, wide receiver Kenny Stills, who took a, let's say, hometown discount, a very slight hometown discount to return to the Miami Dolphins, and he said that he really wanted to be back in Miami, and the reasons why are because of Adam Gase. We'll discuss that a little bit. So we'll go ahead and just get started. So yeah, Kenny Stills is back in Miami, and he will be for the next 4 years. At 4 years and $32 million, with a nice good chunk of that being guaranteed. I believe it's $20 million off the top of my head. So like Chad said, it was a big chunk of guaranteed money and a little less year per average, and he's going to be running with Ryan Tannehill for the next 4 years, assuming Tannehill sticks around for the next 4 years, but that's another discussion altogether. So good things happening. Players wanting to come to Miami, taking less money to come to Miami, wanting to be in Miami because of the coaching staff, because of the front office, if you can believe that. Seems like everything seems to be going Miami's way for right now. And Duke, since you're the first one, since you are the guest tonight, I'm going to let you get your 2 cents in first, and then I'll let Chad have his moment of glory.
It's good that they're re-signing their own guys. You know, it's a bad message to send to your team when a guy comes in. And granted, Stills was a guy they traded for a couple of years ago, but when you have guys that you sign that's part of your team, and then you're just like, all right, you can go. We're going to sign somebody else's players. You know, that's kind of not a good message. This says, hey, we're rewarding guys that we have, and I think they like that. I think that what Gase brings to the situation as far as a little bit of credibility, players like him. You know, it started kind of with Julius Thomas. He took a pay cut on the trade to come here. He took, and Steele and then Branch. So I don't know. It's just a good thing that they're building, and this is where it starts. You know, they extended Rashad Jones, something they said they were going to do. I really like the Fasano signing. I really wish he'd never left. He's not exactly, he's not Gronkowski or Jimmy Graham out there, but he's a reliable set of hands. I can't remember what year it was that he didn't drop a single pass all season. Excellent blocker. Sneaky good at getting open in the red zone. He's not, like I said, he's not a seam threat or anything like that, but he's savvy and he knows how to find those holes in the zone and gets open. So I like that signing. I like that they brought in Jabal Sheard. I hope they can sign him. That is a guy that I like. I think he'll be an addition. And they're bringing in some other guys, so we'll wait and see how it all shakes out. I don't know anything about Larson, so but yeah, I like what they're doing so far.
Okay, how about you, Chad? I know that you were very excited about the Kenny Stills deal in particular.
Yeah, obviously, I guess the theme this year is Miami's taking care of their own, and I think it sends a concrete message to the free agents now that are visiting from other teams, because they see a guy who came in on a one-year deal like Andre Branch, and he's now been rewarded. And I think more than anything, what players want in the NFL is they want success. And to be successful in the NFL, it's not just about talent. You have to be put in situations to succeed. And that's why these players are coming here. The reason Kenny Stills was a big name on the market at the wide receiver was because Adam Gase put him into positions to succeed. The reason Julian Thomas was so successful was he had Gase around. Now, granted, he was playing with Peyton Manning and guys like that as well, but these guys I think, are willing to give up the best possible money deal if it means that they're going to be Pro Bowl type players. And for Kenny Stills, to me, this is a really smart move because I'm pretty sure he could have got a bigger deal. I don't know. You're not going to see the parameters if he had more guaranteed money anywhere, but I think he'll be 28 when this deal's over. And so what's better? Maybe to make a $3 or $4 million, or is it better to have another really good 4 years working with Adam Gase? And so when he's 28, he'll still be young enough to sign another really solid deal. And so again, this is about players that want to play for a coach that can put them in position to win. And Adam Gase is hot right now. He's a guy that's his reputation, and he's a player's coach, and it's guys who want to play for him. And so it's the first time in many years that Miami didn't create holes to fill holes. The first thing they're doing is they're bringing back the pieces they already have, and now they're going into the rest of free agency is trying to build the team by adding more players. And in the past, we would have probably not got Stills back, so we would have then created, and we would have had to look at who's going to be our number 3 wide receiver, or we would not have gotten Branch, and we would have ended up desperately needing to get a defensive end in the draft. So I like what they're doing. I like keeping the players. Kenny Stills, I really nailed that one. I felt pretty good about that because I did get a lot of flack on Twitter because I pegged him at around $6.5 to $7 million a year, and I said the way to get him is you need to guarantee about 75% of that. That's fairly close to what they did. Is rather than offering a massive per year deal, you basically say, look, we want you to be here and playing for the next 4 years, so we'll guarantee a big chunk of it. So it really works out for both the team and the player. And I don't underestimate the value of keeping your receivers and quarterbacks together. So, this will be another full season now after these guys have played together, Parker, Landry, and Stills, and it'll be year 2 in Adam Gase's offense with Tannehill. So this group of wide receivers and quarterbacks should be even more in sync than last year. And it really is going to give not only the receivers, but Ryan Tannehill some actual stability to work with. You don't have to run a new offense. You don't have to get the timing down with a new receiver. That stuff should already be, there from last year, so they can start maybe to build on more complex plays and add to their playbook and do more things on the field. So I think it was a testament to both the coach and the organization that they're not going to go chase a $10 million guard. They're going to keep the team they have intact.
Are we allowed to like Mike Tannenbaum yet?
I like Adam Gase more than Mike Tannenbaum, but what I do like about Tannenbaum, and I think I made this point maybe on the last podcast, but the one parallel I can make in the NFL to fantasy football is the teams that can make trades are the teams that improve themselves. And the NFL has become over the years just a almost non-existent league to try to orchestrate trades. They're so rare. And the one thing I like about Tannenbaum is he makes trades, and that's how two teams can get better, doing mutually beneficial trades. And you got to hand it to him. I mean, last year, granted, Laremy Tunsil fell into their lap, but what a trade that worked out to be for the Dolphins. Whether you're a huge Byron Maxwell fan or not, he was a decent corner. They got by far their best linebacker was Kiko Alonso, and all they did was just fall a few spots down in the draft, and they still were able to land Tunsil, and all that again as a result of being able to make trades. So that is the thing I have to pass on with Tannenbaum is he is willing to make trades. Now, hopefully that doesn't burn us because he does the same thing in the draft. He likes to trade. So I think the general consensus right now is the Carew trade was probably a trade they shouldn't have made in light of re-signing Stills now because they gave up some decent middle range picks to get him. But that'll have to resolve itself in the coming couple seasons to see what Monte Carew ends up being.
Well, I'm not particularly impressed with Parker. And Duke, you gave me a lot of warning signs earlier last season to watch for, and I don't know if you think they came true or not. What are your thoughts on Parker as of right now?
Um, well, he follows me on Twitter, so I have to be nice. Um, but no, I think part of it, looking back at it kind of in hindsight, when you look at some of the things that Adam Gase said, and one thing that they talked about was accountability. And he's already talked about, making sure he shows up on time, making sure he's eating breakfast and keeping himself hydrated. These are things that you think would be second nature, things that people understand.
It's like for
And
just regular humans, not athletes.
well, yeah, and we're used to guys like Cameron Wake who are so, you know, so particular about taking care of themselves that when you have a guy that comes in and he's like, yeah, I'm out here in the South Florida sun and I'm not drinking water and staying hydrated. Oh, I'm having issues, and it goes back to the last regime and just kind of how. I mean, look at everything that's going on with the Redskins right now. That was Dolphins a few years ago. I mean, they are probably their situation. I would say is worse given what the news that's come out this evening. But I mean, they're a complete train wreck, and that's kind of how the Dolphins were. So I mean, the front office, there was no, there was just no communication between the coaches and the front office. You trade up in the draft and get Deion Jordan, and you have absolutely no plan for him. Um, things you don't know what you're doing, and now we finally see a coach that's going to come in and say he looked around the landscape and was like, "What the heck has been going on here?" And he's starting to change some of that. And I think Parker was probably comes in as a rookie into this crazy regime and doesn't really know what he's supposed to do, doesn't learn anything, and now he's got a coach that's going to teach him, and they're putting him on the straight and narrow. So I believe he's going to realize some of that potential. And I think you see it in flashes last year. And again, he did start out of the season hurt, got hurt again in the middle of the season with his back. And anyone who's ever hurt their back knows that just doesn't go away. I don't care what kind of medicine or treatment they give you. So I think a full healthy off season, another season in the same system, that's going to work wonders for him. So I think some of the warning signs or some of the things that we looked for in previous years or the last year with Parker are going to be things that there's going to be some technical things. That's all coaching, but I think some of the things like the staying healthy, the professionalism, that's going to change. He's going to be better. Remember, he's not had a full training camp since he's been a Dolphin, so that kind of stuff is going to help him, and we're going to see, I think, more from him. Now, there's going to be a lot of targets to go around. So if people are expecting him to be, a 100 catch, 1,600 yard kind of guy, I just don't see it. Not with Landry, Stills, Thomas,
And Ajayi taking most of the carries.
Ajayi, Drake in the passing game. You're going to have some of that. Miami's probably going to add another tight end in the draft. So, you're going to have a lot of targets to go around unless they're passing the ball 700 times. He's just not going to get there. But you're going to see improvement. I think you're going to see him become a bigger red zone target. I think you're going to see him downfield a little more as a downfield threat. I'm excited to see it. And I've been critical of Parker in the past. That's only because I want him to excel. He's got the potential. I'd like to see him reach it. And I think he's getting there. And I want to hit on one thing that Chad mentioned when he's talking about re-signing these players. The thing he alluded to is when you sign your own players, you know what you're getting. We went through this with Mike Wallace several years ago. You know what traits he brings to the table, but you don't know exactly how he fits in your offense. And he just never clicked. You know what Stills brings. He's been in your system. Now you're keeping him in the system. So there's not an unknown coming into this. Was this guy going to work? And, I've seen some tweets out there about the receivers that Philadelphia has signed. And it's that one guy, and he's always posting stuff like, well, he said, they've added vertical receivers, but their offense isn't a vertical offense. So how's that going to work? Well, this is, you know what Steele brings to the table. He's been in your offense, and you're keeping him there. You're not bringing an outside guy that you're going to have to relearn or maybe isn't a good fit. So, when you can keep guys that worked in the systems that you had, that's always a plus.
But you were telling me about Parker's ability to get off of coverage, get away from the coverage. That was the thing that you told me most about.
I mean, that's stuff that Jefferson can work with him on and say, like, this is what you got to do. And I mean, that's some stuff you're just not going to learn. I mean, I think when the Dolphins traded for Brandon Marshall, I remember a comment that he made where he said that Devon Best was a much better route runner than he was. And at the time, I remember thinking, like, well, he's an elite receiver. How is that possible? But it's just, some guys just do certain things better than others. So, I mean, I don't know that – I think that you can learn some things there. And that goes back again to he's got to stay healthy and work through all this in training camp. These are things, just things like that. When you're missing time, and they always talk about mental reps, but when you're missing time out on the field, you can't learn the things that you need to learn to be successful. I mean, I can tell someone how to operate a machine, but if they've never done it, they can't just walk in there and do it immediately like someone who's done it, for 10 years. So that's one of those things that when it comes to training camp, he's going to be healthy. He's going to work on these little nuances. And you can go in the receiving room and they can watch tape. And Jefferson can say, all right, now this particular play, the guy was jamming you and you try to do this, but it didn't really work. Here's how you need to do this. Well, that's fine. He can learn that in his head. But it doesn't actually translate if you're standing on the sideline while everyone else is practicing it. Practice that. It translates. Next thing you know, he's doing it. And I mean, he's got some good moves. It's not like he's bad at it. He's just not, he's not the 14th overall pick in the draft to get at it yet. So he's getting there. So I think it just comes with actually being out there on the practice field for a full time, and that'll be good.
All right, then. So, yeah, so Parker's going to be sticking around for at least a couple more years. If he can step up, then maybe he'll get another extension like everybody else did. I assume that Landry's going to get an extension too. I believe they're working on that even as we speak. Stills gets 4 years, $32 million. And then, of course, Julius Thomas, who's coming in, and he's going to be getting about 6.1 million. I think it was a 2-year, $12.2 million contract that he's going to be going with for the Dolphins. So that's a nice little discount to get a elite pass catching tight end. And I say elite pass catching. I didn't say necessarily elite tight end. So let me just make that distinction now. Julius Thomas is a weapon. If you ask him to block, you're in trouble. So that's kind of why they brought in Anthony Fasano to begin with. The Bears are going to use Deion Sims for something. I don't know what. He's supposedly a blocker. Some people tell me Sims is not a good blocker. Some people tell me he's the best blocker. Honestly, I don't even know anymore. Some people are telling me Marquise Gray is actually a better blocker than Deion Sims. So I don't know if that's good for Gray or just bad for Sims. That's something I have to look at the tape for.
You look at the run that the Dolphins went on last season. It was right after Jordan Cameron got hurt, and Sims and Gray and Dominique Jones were added to the lineup. And while those guys limited the passing game, they were monsters in the running game. And in the very first win against Cleveland, the Giants scores the winning touchdown. Marquise Gray buries some dude. He seals him completely off and allows Jai to get around the edge and score that touchdown. So I think he's an underrated player, and he came from Buffalo. And one thing that people need to realize is that Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator, I believe that was his name, of the Bills when Charles Clay first signed with him. And I remember people asking, why would Clay go there to a guy who doesn't use tight ends in his offense, at least as receivers? And so that was a big question about what was going on with Clay. And then you look, and he didn't have the numbers, and part of that was just because of the offensive system. And Gray came from that. So what Gray was basically used for in Buffalo was just as a blocker. And so it wasn't until he came here that they started to use him a little bit more as a receiver. And it was almost, if you go back and watch the games, you could almost set your watch to the very first play of the game. You knew exactly what they were going to run. They were going to run play action, roll out. I used to run this play on Madden all the time. This little roll out. I think it's called a waggle or something, where the tight end kind of fakes to the inside and then rolls out along with the quarterback. I mean, they ran that play at the first play of the game like at least 5 or 6 times. They used him there, so I think there's, as Omar would say, I think there's some more meat on that bone for them to from him. So I mean, I would not be surprised if they didn't use Gray equally or more than Fasano in some of the 2 tight end packages, because he can block and he can be a threat as a receiver. So I'm a fan of Gray. I think he's going to get some things done.
Well, hopefully you're right, man.
I wanted to get Sims back because, again, he's one of your own, but I think he left for a better opportunity for him. I think the Dolphins tried to get him back, so
they did.
It's stuck with their philosophy of trying to keep their own, and you're not going to every time. So, best of luck to Sims. I hope he has some success in Chicago.
In Chicago with Mike Glennon. Yay!
That's another beast, but
I was laughing because I saw Stephen A. Smith on First Take. There was a clip of him, and he was absolutely going bonkers, saying that if Mike Glennon is worth $15 million a year, then Aaron Rodgers is worth $50 million a year. And you know what? He's not wrong. Mike Glennon, $15 million per year, guys. Mike Glennon.
Well,
Mike Glennon.
The first thing you got to look at, though, is the guaranteed funds, because that tells you it's the same thing with Tannehill's contract. If you look at the raw numbers, he got like, what was it, a 5-year, $90-something million extension, and what it really was a certain amount guaranteed. Do what?
It was for $96 million for Tannehill.
Yeah, $96 million, and so it looks like this massive deal, and what it really amounts to is you've got him for a couple of years, and then it's pay as you go. I think that's how the Glennon contract is. Pretty much, he's going to get paid a lot this year, and then if he bombs, then they can get rid of him. I don't think signing him would preclude the Bears from taking a quarterback at 3 if they felt there was one worthy of the 3rd pick. I don't know how that's going to go, but.
By the way, it's a 3-year, but just for the record, Duke, it is a 3-year, $45 million deal that includes $19 million in guaranteed dollars.
So basically, it's a 1-year, $19 million deal with some outs in the last 2 years. I haven't seen the deal, but that's how I would bet it goes. That's just how quarterback contracts are these days. Because I think it was one of the guys from ESPN. He tweeted something today about Brady's contract and how Glennon's contract compared to Brady's contract. And I didn't tweet him back because I didn't want to even think about responding to it. But the fact is, Brady has always kind of done his deals for the betterment of the Patriots, kind of like what we're talking about with the Dolphins free agents this year. If you took Tom Brady in his prime, 2007 Tom Brady, and put him on the open market in today's market, I mean, how much do you think he would get? What kind of contract is he get? Is he getting a 3-year, 45 with 19 guaranteed, or is he getting a 5-year, $160 million deal with like $80 million guaranteed? I mean, for real, if Tom Brady hit the market right now, I mean, being an older quarterback, not as much, but like I said, a prime Tom Brady would get much more than what these quarterbacks are getting right now, the lesser tier guys. So I don't think that's a good comparison. And quarterback contracts are always going to go up. So, I mean, I don't know, when Derek Carr, he's probably the next big name guy that will get a contract. When his contract time is going to be up, he's going to beat Russell Wilson. He's going to beat Andrew Luck and everybody else. Winston or Mariota, if they're the next guys, they're going to be the they're going to beat Derek Carr's deal. It just goes that way, and that's why a lot of people on the Finn side have been talking about Jarvis Landry's contract. They said, well, $10 million a year, if that's what he got, is too much for a slot receiver. I said, well, that's what Randall Cobb got from the Vikings, and in 2 years, a $10 million year deal for a slot receiver. I mean, it won't even register on the radar. And people seem to forget this. So like, I wouldn't sign this guy for more than $4 million a year, like this is 2008 or something. I mean, a mediocre receiver in today's market is going to get $6 million a year. I mean, look at Rashard Matthews, and I think he's more than a mediocre receiver. But look at what he commanded. He got like a $5 million deal, and he was like a part-time starter. He was only a starter for a few games in 2015. He didn't start his first 3 years. He was just a situational guy pretty much, and he got $5 a year. So a guy like Jarvis Landry, he's got 200. Who by the end of this year will probably have 325 catches for his career or more. And you're saying, well, he's not worth like $8 million a year because he plays in the slot. Get out of here with that. I mean, it's just like I don't know. Some of these fans just don't understand how the inflation works.
Welcome to the economy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be long before you're going to have. I mean, I think Chandler Jones, his deal with the Cardinals is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like $17 million a year for a pass rusher. I mean, we're not but maybe 3 years away from a pass rusher commanding $20 million a year, like a quarterback. And we're probably 5 years away from a quarterback getting $30 million a year. Assuming the cap continues to rise, I mean, it's going to happen. So, these deals that the Dolphins are signing now, and by the time they see the end of these contracts, they're going to be bargain deals.
That's kind of scary to think about. And by the way, for the record, Chandler Jones' contract is for $16 million a year. It's for 83 to 84 over 5 years, $50 million guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just how it is. It'd be Von Miller's deal probably. The next big pass rusher, he's going to get more. It's just the way it is. So I would like, if Miami locks Jarvis Landry up for say $12 million a year right now, people would complain that's too much. He's a slot receiver, blah blah blah. Let's say it's a 5-year deal. Halfway through that 5-year deal, it'll be a mediocre contract, middle of the road. That's just how it is. Because if you compare it, well, yeah, $12 million a year compared to what Julio Jones is getting right now, which is like $15 or $16 million a year, I think. Yeah, you're saying he's not worth close to that. Well, Julio Jones signed his deal a few years ago. If Julio Jones was getting a deal today, it'd be even more than that. So it's just how it is. So when you get Stills, who I think is a better receiver than gets credit for $8 million a year, that's
a bargain. Nobody, I don't think anybody's arguing that Kenny Stills' contract is a bargain. That's for sure. So, and there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. Obviously, they need to sign some more guards. I am sure that they don't think that this guy from the Bears, I already forgot his name. That's how little I know about this guy. Let me look it up. What is it?
If I'm not mistaken, Ted Larson is the
Yes, that's his name, Ted Larson.
Brother. He's the older brother of that Larson that the Dolphins picked up as an undrafted free agent a few years ago. I can't remember his name, but I believe he is the same. He's the older brother of that guy. I want to say Cody Larson, but I may be wrong.
Oh, we just found out what Deion Sims is getting from the Bears. As of right now, it has been reported by Mike Garofalo. It is a 3-year deal, $18 million, $10 million guaranteed. So $6 million per year.
That's not bad.
About the same we're getting for Julius Thomas.
Yeah, I think well, Julius Thomas got more than that originally. He took a pay cut. So
Right.
for production wise, yeah, that's about the same. That's what they're getting. So
Oh,
yeah, that's a
alrighty
good
then.
difference.
All right. So
Uh,
now, of course,
I
we
just
got the
saw,
defense.
I was
Say
gonna say,
again.
I just saw on the Bell Network, the Ravens and Brandon Williams have agreed to a 5-year deal.
Oh well. Guess Dolphins don't get him. That's fine. We'll find somebody else. I'm sure maybe we'll even go for it in the draft. That's fine. I'm not really that concerned about defensive tackle. It's defensive end that I'm worried about. And actually, this is an interesting opportunity to go into a small segue because I don't know if either of you have noticed, but I have been arguing back and forth with people on Twitter for the past couple of days or so on whether or not Deion Jordan should even get the opportunity to try and prove himself in training camp. Not whether he should be staying on the roster at all, but whether he should even be getting the opportunity to try and prove himself. I have been making the argument that he's already here. He's a position of need. He still has ability. Otherwise, he would have been cut a long time ago. He was the third overall pick for a reason. He must still have something in the tank, and he's not exactly going to be that expensive. So my mentality has been, regardless of the issues that he's had before, there's going to be 90 people on the roster by the time training camp rolls around. What is the harm in letting Jordan go out there and try to say, look, I've still got it. Let me go out there and prove myself. But people are telling me he's been drugged up too many times. He needs to get out of here now. And I just feel like that they're talking out of their emotions. He's a position of need. He has talent, and at this point, he's got nothing left to lose. So and everything to gain. So if I were Deion Jordan, I would be going all out there to try and show that he still has something and that he's still worth at least getting a little bit of money. Because all due respect to Deion Jordan, I don't know what else he could do. Maybe he's a lot smarter off the field than he is on, but I don't know. I just feel like that Deion Jordan, he deserves one more shot because he hasn't really had a chance to do anything under Adam Gase. Everything that he's done has been under the Joe Philbin regime, other than getting hurt, which is not really something that Adam Gase can control anyway. So, Chad, I want your opinion on this whole situation. I'm probably going to be writing a column about it later this week if I can find some time. Deion Jordan, could he get a chance to play in training camp? I'm not even saying keep him. I'm saying should he get a chance to participate in training camp, or should the Dolphins just cut bait with him now and just let some other Joe Schmo have his roster spot?
In my opinion, if Deion Jordan is one healthy and two clean, those I guess, and three in shape, if he's those three things, he'll make the team list. He's a very capable special teams player. He's a capable pass rusher. But the thing is, those are all three very big ifs because he hasn't really been those for a long time now. So, again, if he's in shape, if he's healthy, and if he's clean, if he's those three things, he's a sensational athlete that they'll be able to play on special teams, and they'll be able to rotate him in to rush the passer. So that's what I think. But the real question is he going to be that? And that's why you're getting the feedback on Twitter, because I don't think anybody out there expects Deion Jordan to show up in shape or to show up clean. He's proven himself to be a person is not reliable, and so that's what you have. But I don't see any reason or any benefit from cutting him right now, because you get whatever the total roster is, 90 guys or whatever. So if he shows up out of shape or if he fails a drug test, then he'll just get cut in camp. I don't believe the Dolphins will rely on him to be available in any capacity, but they'll definitely let him show up and give him a chance to compete in that capacity. So I'm with you on that, Lewis. I don't know why you would cut him right now, and I haven't heard anything negative about him other since he had his knee injury from last year, and so he just simply wasn't ready. He didn't know the scheme, and he's got a lot of work ahead of him. But that's really on his shoulders now, and the Dolphins don't have anything to lose at this point. They'll cut him if he fails. That's where it's at.
Right, that was my argument the whole time, is that if any of those things happen, you cut him. Because if you're going to cut him anyway, you might as well at least see what he's got before you decide to cut bait with him. Because whether you cut him during training camp or you cut him earlier, you are eventually going to cut him. What's one more person going to do? It's not like he's taking half the roster. That's been my argument this whole time. And I understand the unreliability. I get that. And I personally, you want my honest opinion? I don't think he'll make it. But I don't see the logic in cutting him right now, which is what everybody wants to do. Like, you're going to cut this guy because you just don't like him. That's kind of like the argument about people give me about when a player is injury prone. Kiko Alonso is injury prone. We don't want to give him a long-term contract. Meanwhile, I have other people telling me, what about Michael Kendricks? And I'm just thinking to myself, because I looked back and I saw why the Eagles were dumping him. A, he's a little more expensive than they might like, I think. And B, he keeps getting hurt. He's injury prone. But everybody wants to gloss over that fact because it's a shiny new name that hasn't been in a Dolphins uniform before. So I'm just baffled by the mindset here. You are looking at this guy, Deion Jordan, who is the position that the Dolphins are desperately looking for, and you want to cut him just because you don't like him or you don't expect him to do much? Let him prove it first. Then you can get rid of him. I don't see the logic in that.
I agree with you completely, Lewis. And I'm sure that's what the Dolphins are going to do. I mean, like I said, I don't believe they'll rely on him in the standpoint of they're going to still bring in some free agents and or draft some guys to play DN, but he'll get a chance to compete because even if he's the number 4 defensive end and he's playing on special teams, he could still make an impact on the team, and he's still a very talented individual. So I don't believe Deion Jordan's a bad person. He just has not had been able to keep himself accountable to be a professional athlete. So
that sounds like Devontae Parker.
A little bit worse. I mean, Devontae is needs to, I think, work on prepping himself a little bit better. But that's a lot different than failing drug tests.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It's a little different because of the whole drug addiction, but it is the same in the sense of being a pro and taking care of yourself.
No, but I mean, it's the good thing is we have Gase now, and the one thing he has done that we really haven't had since Shula's years is forcing accountability on anyone. And so it doesn't matter if you are Ndamukong Suh, and it doesn't matter if you're Deion Jordan, where you're at on the roster. If you aren't showing up in shape and prepared and competing at the highest level possible, you're going to be on the bench. You're going to be gone. And so you have to have that. You can't give anybody a free pass based on where they were drafted or what they were paid. If they're not prepared, if they're not on your program, and if they're not, succeeding on the field, you got to get them swapped out of there. And that's why I feel like Devontae Parker is going to be just fine. I mean, we've seen Byron Maxwell get benched. We've seen Jay Ajayi get left home. And this is Adam Gase again, basically telling Devontae Parker it's not good enough, and he's on notice. And so I suspect Devontae Parker is going to, have a full training camp, provided he stays healthy, and he'll be in the system again for another year. And I suspect he'll be more improved this year as long as he's healthy. I mean, you got to admit, in that Rams game, Devontae Parker took it over. We saw what he can do. And, with the offense where it's at, with everybody back in sync again, Devontae Parker is going to get a fair amount of one-on-one matchups. I mean, you have to account for Jarvis Landry. And most people are now realizing you can't just let Kenny Stills run down the field one-on-one. He's just too fast. And so, with Thomas here now, that you're going to have to try to match up with Devontae Parker one-on-one. That's going to probably be the more common pick. And so for the defenses early on, and Devontae Parker has all the talent in the world to beat one-on-one coverages, but he has to run good routes, and he has to know where he needs to be. And that it's all up onto him now. The sky's the limit for him this year.
Duke, do you have any opinions on the Deion Jordan front?
I mean, the only reason I would say cutting him, aside from doing something stupid, would be to save $3.2 million in cap. I mean, that's not going to land you a player if you're that close and say, well, I could have landed X player, but I ended up $3 million, then you probably didn't need to pay that guy that much money anyway. for, I know new draft prospects are always more shiny than older players, but for everything that people have talked about with like Takaris McKinley and things like that, for what the Dolphins would draft him for, that's what Deion Jordan will do. He's a guy that he's a little bit bigger, a little heavier, but he's a guy that he can line up with his hand in the dirt and rush the passer. You can stand him up and rush the passer. You can play him as a stand-up linebacker, off-the-ball linebacker, if you needed him to. He is you can use him in a variety of ways, and I think the Dolphins absolutely would if he's on the field. Because I remember when Koamisi, early in the year when he went out, I think Vance Joseph said, well, Wake could play some Sam if they needed him to, which is what Missy was doing, because they like to use their Sams, kind of a guy that can rush off the edge. Well, that's Deion Jordan to a T. So if he's healthy, you've kind of, if he, again, like Chad said, you can't expect him to do this. But what he does bring to the table is kind of what you need. So, at this point, with a new coaching staff that's not tied to him, it's a positive, if he can bring anything. So, yeah, don't cut him. See what he can do. You can save that $3 million later in the year and roll it over to next year. But see what he brings to the table. If he stays healthy, if he's being accountable, if he wants to be here, if he wants to do this thing, then you've got Branch, you've got Wake, you've got whoever they draft. Hopefully they have Jabal Sheard. Now you've got Deion Jordan. You've got a plethora of rushers that you can use in a variety of ways. I mean, think about it. Imagine what was it they called it a couple of years ago, the NASCAR package or whatever it was, where you have Wake, Jordan, Sheard, Branch as your defensive, with Sue in there, of course. You could do all kinds of things, rush, blitz. You'll be amazing. So, don't expect him to do anything, but, be pleasantly surprised if he does. I just saw across the bottom of the screen here the 5-year deal for Brandon Williams, reportedly worth $54 million with $27.5 in guarantees.
Yeah, they're paying big for him. I guess really he wouldn't have been a scheme fit because as a nose tackle, he would have been more useful in a 3-4.
Well, they use kind of a variety of fronts there, and so the only problem I had, and I know he's a good player, and you bring Brandon Williams in, and your run defense instantly improves. Not a problem there. The problem I had with a guy like Brandon Williams, or some of these, or Don Terry Poe even, is, Sue's going to play like 85% of the snaps. You don't really have a backup 3 tech. You need a guy that can take his spot on the field when he needs a couple plays to take a break. So you need a guy like that. I think you can draft a guy like that. It can do things like that. One guy that, I don't know, I've got it through my head today, and maybe I'm just crazy, but with Wade Tannenbaum likes to trade, I would love to see, I would hate to trade for the guy, but a guy like Jonathan Allen in the draft, who would be basically Sue's replacement in about 3 years. Adding a guy like that who can play behind him or replace him at some point. You don't have that. What Miami had last year was Sue and a bunch of nose tackles. But for a guy like Brandon Williams, if you pay him $11 million a year, like the Ravens just did, and assuming that the Dolphins would have had to pay equal or more than that, then he needs to play at least 70% of the snaps that you play, which means he's going to be in on nickel, he's going to be in on passing downs. Now, from everything I've read about Williams, he's not a pass rusher. He is a run-stuffing nose tackle, basically a 2-down kind of guy. Do you want to pay $11 million a year for a 2-down kind of guy? Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. Somebody might know more about it than I do. But to me, I would rather use draft picks or cheaper veterans. Like, I would bring back Tosolii before I would go out and sign Brandon Williams to that kind of money, because Solii will work in the rotation. You're going to get him a lot cheaper. And and he still does the same thing. You're not expecting him to be a pass rusher. He's going to clog up the middle. Same thing with the guy, one name that I've heard about is like Benny Logan, who plays for the Eagles. Basically the same kind of guy. You could probably get him for, maybe Earl Mitchell type money. So, go for something like that and then draft a guy. But yeah, I'm not paying $11 million a year to a guy that I don't think is going to be on the field, 60% of the time. And I don't think he would, at least not for Miami.
Okay, so then let me ask you this, Duke. What would you do? You mentioned Paul Soliai. Now, what if we looked into the possibility of another free agent who I don't think has gotten many looks as of yet, former Kansas City Chiefs big man, Dontari Poe?
I think he's the same boat. I think everything that I've read about him would suggest that it's you're paying for name more than production. He had like one good year where he was able to rush the passer some, but I think he's kind of still in that same boat. Is he a guy that you want to put on the field, pay a lot of money for, and put on the field for that amount of time? I mean, you've got Jordan Phillips, and Jordan Phillips seems like he is just one. He seems like he's one of those guys that the light's kind of flickering, it's almost on, and if it ever goes completely on, he's going to be devastating. And I think we've got a coach that can do that, to get that light to come on. But I don't know that I want to sign a big name guy to be in a rotation. I mean, you signed a guy like Sue, and you see what he does. He plays all the time. If you sign a guy like Poe, and he's not going to sign for that kind of money, he's going to sign for similar. And I just don't want to pay $7 to $10 million a year for a guy, number one, that's more of just a run stuffer and doesn't offer anything else on the defensive line, and he's not going to play 60% of the snaps. I mean, that's why I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem paying Soliai, 1 year, $3 million kind of thing to get him in there, because he's going to play limited snaps, work in that rotation. That's good for the money. If you sign Poe for $8 million a year and he's playing, 450 out of 1,100 defensive snaps, then you just wasted your money.
True enough.
He would probably do more than that because of the money. I just don't know that he. I don't know. I've not watched enough tape on him enough. He brings enough to the table to warrant, more snaps than that. I don't know. Especially when the Dolphins come out, because they're expecting to see more from Jordan Phillips. So I think going in that I think that's the position that we'll look at in the draft. I know our friend Oscar, he mentioned Vanderdoes from UCLA as a guy who can play 1 or 3 tech position. Probably a guy that you'd have to get in the second, maybe third round. But I think there's some good defensive tackles in this draft that you could that could come in and do the same things that you'd be paying these guys for. Maybe not as good as stuffing the run as a Brandon Williams, but definitely worth it for not having to pay $11 million a year.
Yeah. So now let's switch over to the linebacker position. We're going to move one unit back from the defensive line. The Dolphins gave Kiko Alonso a first-round tender just to make sure nobody else snags him. And trust me, they are still working on the potential of a long-term deal. So Kiko will likely stick around in Miami for at least a little while longer, not just this upcoming year. So that is something to look forward to, but they're not done yet there. They also want to bring in another veteran, which I am 100% for, because I'm tired of bringing in undrafted free agents and hoping somebody pans out. Like, as much as I like Mike Hall and Neville Hewitt, they currently are not starter material, and I don't want them to be the starters when 2017 rolls around. So it's been reported that the Dolphins are going to be bringing in Lawrence Timmons. He's going to be coming in on tomorrow. That's Friday, and of course, they're also looking into the potential of bringing in Zach Brown from the Buffalo Bills. Now, I've heard mixed reactions and opinions on both players. Duke, I know you told me about Zach Brown, and I think he's who you wanted. Can you tell me a little bit about him and why him specifically?
I mean, I think he plays that Buffalo front, which is more of a 3-4, and so that kind of can disguise linebackers a little bit. But he's athletic. He can cover decently. He can stop the run. I mean, he's better than anything else Miami's got. So he's not going to cost you, massive money like Dante Hightower would. So yeah, I like him. I mean, at this point, just sign all the linebackers. I mean, bring Tim in and sign him. Bring Pat Brown and sign him. I mean, it can't hurt. And I still think even if they signed him, sign Timmons, sign Zach Brown, and sign Alonzo to a long-term deal, I still think they draft one. I mean, that's how bad the position is. And I've said this on the site. I've tweeted this out before. Koa Misi, who was actually drafted to be a 3-4 rush linebacker, is the highest drafted linebacker, assuming you consider Deion Jordan as a defensive end. So I'll put it this way. Koa Misi became an off-ball linebacker. He's the highest drafted off-ball linebacker. He was drafted since Jackie Shipp in 1984.
So they really don't like drafting linebackers.
No, they've signed guys. They've signed Carlos Dancy. They've signed, guys like that. They brought him in. Of course, you didn't need a lot with Zach Thomas. I mean, he was a diamond in the rough. But as far as highly drafted, they have not used a pick on a player. I think Konisi was drafted 43rd in that draft, and they've not drafted one higher than that since 1984. So it's been a
there's been a linebacker drought.
Yeah, they've just not done anything, and so I don't know if it will end this year. It depends on what happens in free agency. I know a lot of mocks and a lot of things that kind of tie guys like Hassan Reddick, Zach Cunningham, to the Dolphins as potential draft pick there, and of course that would end that drought.
Okay, quick question though, Duke. Just quick question.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard the rumors about Reuben Foster and him potentially dropping after his little combine issues. I know you've been raving to me about Zach Cunningham in private, but if you got the choice between Foster and Cunningham, are you still grabbing Cunningham?
I mean, Foster's the pick, but I don't think he's going to fall. The only way he falls is if all the teams that need linebackers pick one up in free agency and decide not to use a high pick on one. And I still don't think that happens. I watched that press conference after the pro day yesterday where they interviewed Nick Saban, and I think he said, if you're looking for a linebacker, he's the guy. If you're looking for a candy striper, be nice to people at the hospital, look for somebody else. I mean, given the situation that happened, excuse me, from what I'm understanding, it seems like it was just a matter of frustration and misunderstanding. And I think once teams bring him in and interview him and talk with him, I mean, it's not like he's a troubled guy at Alabama. I mean, it's not like a guy with a, drug addict or one of these people that had all kinds of red flags. It's like, here's this guy who's everything you'd want in a linebacker. I think PFF had him as like a top 5 pick caliber. I even suggested that he could go number 2 to San Francisco. I mean, he was, they're projecting him to be that good. And so he had no character red flags whatsoever. And then suddenly this incident happens. It's just out of something doesn't belong. So I think once the smoke clears on that, he'll be back at the top of draft boards, and he will not be there at 22. If he is there at 22, for some reason, if somebody gets him a gas mask and he is there at 22, and up to pick him, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I may have to turn my phone off or something because I will be ecstatic. Because even if you sign these other guys, you know, you can kind of bring him along slowly, but you put him. I've even seen suggestions you can put him at the will linebacker position. I mean, I can't imagine just how excited it will be when it's 3rd and 2, and Tom Brady turns around and hands it off to whoever they have in the backfield, and Reuben Foster comes screaming through the line and crushes the guy in the backfield, and they have to punt. And just dreams of that, you know. Uh, but it's not happening, so don't get your hopes up.
Well, we said the same thing about Laramie Tunsil, so let's not assume anything. Yes, yet assuming is what got me to post a story early yesterday. Oops.
Well, the thing about Tunsil, and while this isn't looking back at it, it's one of those things that you can see in hindsight. But when they were interviewing Robert Nkemdiche at the combine, he threw Laramie Tunsil under the bus. He had mentioned because there was an incident where he fell off of a hotel balcony or something, and there was apparently some marijuana usage going on in that hotel room, and he specifically mentioned Laramie Tunsil as a guy in the room with him. Now, when the situation happened with the gas mask, it kind of freaked some people out, and Miami was the beneficiary of that. But looking back after seeing what Nkemdiche said about that, you kind of say, well, there was some writing on the wall there that there could have been some kind of issue. I don't know. I just don't see anything like that with Reuben Foster. Everything seems to come across as this guy is a stand-up, high-character guy, and this was just an incident that was out of character.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Chad? How are you going to address the linebacker position?
Well, I don't think they're going there. It would have all. Best way to say it is, it does not appear they're going to do it in the draft based on who they're bringing in right now in the free agency market. It looks like they're going to bring in some veterans. That doesn't mean they won't draft a linebacker, but I don't. It looks to me like they're going to address different positions in the draft than linebacker, and that's why they're bringing these free agents in. Right now, I see the team needs at least 5 starters. They're going to need a starting safety. They need 2 starting linebackers. They need 2 starting guards, and so those positions are going to have to be filled with the first 2 picks of the draft and free agency. So the question is, which ones do they want to fill in free agency? And it doesn't look like they're going to. I know they just signed Larson, but I don't know that the intention is for him to be a starting guard, or if they're bringing him in for depth, or if they're even sure of that yet. So we got to let the pieces fall. But they definitely are going after Timmons, which I like. I think they need. He would be a really good addition. I don't know that they'll get him away from Pittsburgh or not. I suspect Pittsburgh will be his number 1 choice, so the money's going to have to be a big differential between them to get him signed. I would love to get the guy out of Alabama, but it would be, he's going to have to get in some more trouble to make it down to 22, or Miami would have to trade up to get him. So I don't see that happening. So my gut feeling is what Miami's targeting in the draft is a defensive tackle. It's a deep draft for it, even though they're talking about using Jordan Phillips in a higher capacity. That you can't play in the NFL anymore with 2 D tackles. You really need 4, and you got to be, especially in Miami where you get in the heat. So I that's my gut feeling is Miami's looking at defensive tackle, maybe in the first round pick, and that's a position just like offensive tackle. You're just better off to use the draft to get them because they're so expensive in free agency that it makes your cap more manageable to get your offensive tackles and defensive tackles in the draft, and you got to use high picks to get them. So that's where I think they're going to go in the draft. So I think that's why you're seeing these free agent linebackers come in, and I'm hoping they get them. It's going to really, the thing about this free agency is the first 2 or 3 days are where the starters fly through, and then you just get the lull until the draft's over. And so I'm really hoping that we get these guys signed, and that we can get at least 1 starter in the next 2 or 3 days in the linebacker position. Now, the real question with this is going to be what are they going to do with Kiko Alonso? Obviously, they tendered him in a first round pick, which there's been some disagreement about that because a lot of people feel like if they had tendered him at the second round pick, that it would have saved him a couple $1 million on the cap they could have applied towards another player. But obviously, Miami had enough concern that somebody would pony up a second round pick to get Kiko Alonso that they had to put a first round tender on him. But it really isn't clear yet if Miami's intention is to play him in the middle again, or if it is their intention is to move him out to the weak side linebacking position. So that's going to impact it a lot. I imagine if they're going to bring Timmons in, he would be the inside linebacker, and Kiko would play on the outside. So, in the name I still keep getting thrown around here is Jabril Peppers. Whether he's a safety or a weak side linebacker.
He's been screaming he's a safety.
Well, I understand, but he's a guy that you could play at weak side linebacker in some situations, and so it's going to be interesting to see what their plan is defensively at the linebacking position. But barring a miracle with guys dropping to them at 22, I assume they're going to continue to bring these free agents in, and they're going to fill it that way. Which I for whatever reason, as Duke was pointing out, Cole Messi was the highest drafted linebacker they've had. Miami just has not drafted linebackers. They've continually filled them through free agency, and so it looks like we're probably going to have that for another year. But it is what it is. Hopefully they can get some of these guys signed. And as I was saying earlier in the show, they've got all of their current pieces retained, and so now it's about improving your team and building on it. So I don't know. I haven't heard any updates other than Timmons is going to be on Friday, right? That's what they're reporting.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
With the team. So if he shows up in Miami, I feel like we have a really good chance that we're going to get him. I assume right now the Pittsburgh Steelers are putting the full court press on him to keep him because he is a solid player even at 31. He's a solid veteran, durable football player too, which is exactly what you're pointing out with Kendricks. Is that guy's hurt all the time, and guys do you no good when they're on the bench hurt, which is the problem with Cole Messi. If you can have a great linebacker, but if he's only going to be able to play 4 or 5 games, what good does it do you? And so if they get him, I really feel it puts them in a good position to maybe get a D tackle or a D end in the draft if they need to. I am not an advocate of paying guards or drafting guards really high. I feel like you can get them more affordable and you can get them into the middle rounds of the draft. And I'm hoping the philosophy. I'm glad Miami didn't jump right out of the gate and pay Zeitler like a $10 million contract because they don't have the cap space to be paying guards massive contracts. So I want to see them use those high draft picks to get talented defensive players, whether it's a great safety to pair with Rashad Jones or whether it's a great defensive tackle to pair with Ndamukong Suh. That's what I'm looking for.
And there will be some debate on whether the Dolphins will get a safety or a tackle or maybe even still a linebacker. Because if Zach Cunningham does make it to 22, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that either because we need to get some long-term linebackers in there just to finally round out the core. I've been saying for a long time that linebackers are the heart of the defense, and I know, like, even Channing Crowder came on our show and said that it's cornerbacks and defensive ends that make the defense, and I argued with Channing, a linebacker, and told him that it's his position, linebacker, that is actually the heart of the defense, and he disagreed with me. And I'm just looking here like I've been watching this Dolphins defense for the past however many years now, and one thing has been in common with all the reasons why their defense has not been good those years. The linebackers have been garbagey, for lack of a better term. So
they have, Lewis, and I would love to get Reuben Foster. I really would, but I agree with Duke. I mean, this was a weird incident. I don't know the specifics. Obviously, he got in an altercation with some medical staff over waiting, but that's a lot different than hitting a girlfriend or getting caught with drugs or something. So I just don't see that lowering his draft stock that much.
That's Foster, not Cunningham.
Right. I'm talking about Foster, but really, in my mind, Reuben Foster is the only player I feel like in the draft you can plug in and feel like you've got a stud linebacker. Not that there are other good linebackers in the draft, not that Miami won't draft one, but he's obviously, if you want your stud middle linebacker, he's the guy you want to try to get. And I'm not opposed to maybe trying to swing something, maybe throw in a pick and try to move up a few picks if he does fall. I mean, if he falls past 10, if he's still on the board at pick 11, I hope Miami's on the phone trying to make a play for him because that changes the whole face of their defense. And
Oh, I think you might be in the minority there.
you would trade up for him? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that most of the Dolphins fan base would scream and rage at you at the very idea of getting away more picks in this draft.
It's not about picks. It's about getting Pro Bowl caliber players. And if you want to get a linebacker in the second or third round that can be a decent linebacker, that's what you're going to have, a decent linebacker. Do you want a dominant linebacker? You got to go get these guys. I would equate this to the Falcons a few years ago making a big move to go up and get Julio Jones. I don't think anybody's regretting that they had to make a big move to jump up and get him, and it's about getting stud players. So you've got Ndamukong Suh in his prime right now. You've just invested a bunch of money into Rashad Jones. What's the point of putting a mediocre linebacker with those guys so that you have a decent defense? If you want to win games and you want to go to the playoffs, you need a dominant defense. And getting a guy like Reuben Foster and putting him in the middle, so you have Rashad Jones, Reuben Foster, and Ndamukong Suh at all three levels, you suddenly got a great defense. And so it depends if the opportunity presents itself. I just don't see him falling that far, but if you suddenly have a shot at him, if he falls past 10 and you can give up maybe a second round pick or a third round pick in your first and jump up and grab him, I'm just in that mindset. You got to consider it.
I understand.
He changes the complexion of my season. He is we've seen the hits, we've seen him fly the ball. He does everything well. There's doesn't really have a whole lot of weaknesses. I even heard comparisons that he is kind of like the next Ray Lewis. And so,
well, that was supposed to be Manti Te'o. So any comparisons to Ray Lewis, I'm a little iffy.
Yeah, but Te'o physically is nowhere near the ballpark what Foster can do. Not that Te'o's a good linebacker. I wouldn't mind having him on the team, but he physically doesn't match up with Reuben Foster with what he can do. And so I know it's a pipe dream, and I know Duke's living it too. But I am so confident in Adam Gase. They've got Kenny Stills back. The offense that they have right now, they're going to get some veteran guards, or they're going to get a middle, guard in the middle of the draft that's solid. They are going to score points. I have no doubt in my mind Miami is going to be scoring points this year, and it's all about the defense right now. I mean, we need two starting linebackers. We need a starting safety. We could desperately use another good defensive end, and we could definitely use another good D tackle. And so, how they fill that out is going to dictate our season. Are we going to have? If we get a really good defense put together, we're going to be consistently winning football games. If we don't do that, we're going to be a team that's real similar to last year. And so, to me, you got to get a couple studs on defense, and there's no better way to do it than jump up in the draft and grab maybe best player available at a position.
Yeah, and I think that as far as where Miami's draft position is and where Reuben Foster's probably going to go, then I think that second tier set of linebackers, while they're not, I don't think they're the blue chip prospect that Foster is. I think a guy like Cunningham, a lot of people have him as an inside linebacker. I see him more as an outside linebacker. And if you can put him in a position to play outside linebacker, I think he's a guy that doesn't have necessarily quite the same effect, but I think he automatically improves defense, and he does some things that that would help the Dolphins, particularly in the run game. I know a lot of people are high on Jared Davis from Florida. I know the Dolphins are pretty high on the Anzalone from Florida. I know he's got some injury concerns, but he'd be more of your mid-round linebacker pick. But there are a couple of guys in there that I think could help out. I think the name for the Dolphins right now that a lot of people are linking to is Hassan Reddick, who he played.
I've heard that too, Duke. Yeah, I've heard his name too being associated with the Dolphins. So I'd say him.
Yeah, so I think he's a guy that the NFL.com comparison for him is Ryan Shazier, and he was a guy I wanted the Dolphins to draft in 2014. He just didn't get to the Dolphins. So
Yeah, they were were they one pick away? That was him and C.J. Mosley were both heartbreakers.
Yeah, they were a couple picks away, I think. Both of them. Those were guys that I really wanted. And I think Ruben, as much as I wanted C.J. Mosley and Ryan Shazier, I think Reuben Foster's that much better. So yeah, Miami has a chance for him. I mean, I was sitting there kind of like, man, I hope as soon as that incident thing happened, I was like, please let this be something. Please let this be something real, And but it's not going to be. But yeah, I mean, I think there's some.
Well, he's not going to make it to the Dolphins at 22. That I understand that, but my thought was, if it for some reason if he falls a little bit, and again I'm using that cutoff, what is the move up price? He always had the Jimmy Johnson valuation board, but if he starts getting into the teens, I start looking at what's the cost for me to jump up and grab him because he'd be sensational. Now, I absolutely agree with both you guys that getting somebody like Cunningham, he's definitely better than anybody we have right now, to add with Kiko Alonso. So, if you can't get Reuben Foster, it's a great plan B, too, as well. But,
Foster's 15. I don't have a problem with that.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I don't think he makes out of the top 10 though. I mean, I think he's Cincinnati. I think it's at 9. Buffalo's at 10. I mean, he's going to a team like that.
I think Cincinnati in particular might jump up and try to get an offensive lineman because after losing Zeitler, and I think they lost their left tackle too, so they're going to be looking for linemen.
Yeah, that's a popular thing to do in the first round. That's what I was mentioning earlier. You want to get your offensive tackles and defensive tackles in the first round. That's why those blue chip guys are so commonly top 10 picks because it's a lot easier to project a guy like Laramie Tunsil that he's going to come in and be able to start for you than it is to project a cornerback or a receiver or a quarterback. You just don't know what you're getting as well. But when you get a guy physically that can do what those guys can, those are easy picks. Or safe picks, I should say, in the top of the draft. But
safe.
I'm with Duke. I don't see Reuben Foster falling. The chips could fall right where he gets into the teens, and it'd have to be maybe some people are jockeying for offensive lineman, or maybe, once this quarterback situation plays out, there's going to be at least 2 or 3 teams that want to get the top quarterbacks in the draft. And as you saw last year, teams are going to start making moves to move up and get quarterbacks. So, it's possible Foster gets out of the top 10, but he's probably not going to get out of the top 15. That would be shocking. So if he gets past 15, they better be calling every single team on the phone trying to move up and grab that guy because it just would be such a good player to pair with our current defenders. But in any event, they've got to get 2 linebackers in here, and I really don't think Cole Macy's going to be on the team. With his injury history, I've even heard that he's been considering retirement, and they're going to have to get a strong side linebacker, and they're going to have to get either a middle linebacker or a weak side linebacker in the coming days or in this draft. And so I personally don't feel comfortable going into a draft expecting any more than your first and second round pick to start the coming season. Sometimes you get lucky. You might get a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that can come in and play, but I don't like relying on that. And so Miami has got to fill 3 or 4 holes yet in this coming days. And so we'll know a lot more, as they bring those guys in. And I have to give the Dolphins credit. They've been pretty tight-lipped. I mean, we're seeing their own guys getting signed, but nobody really knows what the Dolphins' plan is right now, like who they're really chasing, and other than keeping their own guys, we know they're bringing linebackers in, but we really don't know, who they have their sights on, who they didn't get, and it's all hearsay right now. So I got to give them credit because back in the days when it was Ross just starting, it just seemed like everybody knew what was going on. You know what I mean, in the media before anything happened, and it makes it hard to get deals done when you have leaks going on all over the place.
And I think if they signed him, and he's not a long-term option, and I think that would be a sign, at least to me, that they're looking at a guy like Reddick, who he's already been linked to the Dolphins, and here he is. He's going to be, he's going to be moving. I think he was like that. He started out as a safety, at least he was in high school, and then he moved to a defensive end position. Now they're going to move him to an off-ball linebacker. And so that's going to take – he's athletic enough. It's going to take some transition. So that's what you do. You bring in a guy who's kind of, all right, we're going to let you learn under him, and then it'll be your job in 2018. And so that's, I think they could do something like that. I know it's not a popular, uh, pick, but I know Keith. This is his guy, but I really could see the Dolphins going Forrest Lamp in the first round. And like you said, Chad, you're not big on guards early, and I'm not really either. But at this point, with the way the Dolphins are going, I think that I really could just see them doing that, assuming there's not somebody else there. Like they would go for maybe a tight end or something. I don't see that, but I really could see Adam Gase pounding the table for a guy like Forrest Lamp, and so suddenly you've got your left guard there, and he's a guy that can really play up and down the line of scrimmage. But the comparisons that I've seen on him are a guy like Zach Martin. You bring him in, he solidifies your offensive line, particularly the running game. I could see that. Another guy that I don't think people are really talking about, or another position outside of Jabril Peppers, is safety. And I don't know if Peppers would be the guy, but I could see them looking at safety in the first round. Maybe not Obi-Wan Kenobi, but a guy that I've heard is Buda Baker. He's tested similar to Earl Thomas. He plays that deep safety role that the Dolphins kind of want to play. A little bit kind of on the undersized side, but I mean, really, I was sitting there. I was going to write a post for. I was in the process of writing a post for the Phinsider on kind of how I would approach the offseason. And I was kind of about halfway through it, and I got all my free agents done. That was simple. I got to the draft, and I sat there for an hour and could not come to a consensus on who I thought the Dolphins should draft in the first round. I kept talking with some folks some friends, and I was like, I'm going to draft this guy in my mock. And I'd come back 5 minutes later, no, I want to do this guy. And it just bouncing back and forth because there's so many positions that they need, and then there's so many positions that they could take, and they're all good. I mean, it's like, as long as Miami doesn't do something stupid and get a quarterback, running back, or receiver in the first round, anything else not only is on the table, but will be a good fit.
No, and I like to look at what they're doing right now, and so clearly they're bringing linebackers in, and that tells me that they probably aren't planning on getting linebackers in the first round. Like I said, if somebody like Reuben Foster falls, of course, but best player available. But it looks to me like you see them bringing in a guard, you see them meet with linebackers right out of the gate. But what you don't hear is them chasing any safeties right away. And so that makes you wonder, like, maybe that's their intention, is they've got some guys in the draft they feel good about, because not only is, they're down to basically Rashad Jones right now, is they didn't really tender Michael Thomas that high. And so he's certainly at risk of getting picked up by another team with his, the different skill sets he has. He's a viable player, but he's essentially Miami's number 3 safety. And so not only do they need a starting safety, they need another safety for depth. And so Miami's right now, at this point in free agency, you don't really see them putting safety as a priority, which makes me tend to think safety is something they're planning on addressing in the draft. And I feel the same way about the D tackle, because now that they signed Branch, they got the guy in from New England. They're looking at pass rushers in free agency right now, but you don't see them bringing in the top D tackles right now. And so that makes me feel like they must have guys they feel like they're going to target in the draft at safety and D tackle, and they plan on filling guard and linebacker in through free agency, at least in the early going. That's what it feels like. And I don't foresee them, at least in a high pick, drafting a running back. And it's a great year to get running backs, and just be patient. I mean, Adrian Peterson is probably one of the best running backs of all time, and he can't even find anybody that wants to offer him a job right now. And so it's easy to just wait till after the draft and pick up veteran running backs if you want to add one in with the mix. So if they want to bring in one more running back into camp, I think they'll be just fine to wait till the draft's over and pick up a veteran back to come in and maybe compete with Drake for some carries at the backup position.
Well, we're running a little low on time, but I do want to get in one last little thing here. A couple more things, actually. Number one is an unfortunate turn of events as the Dolphins were forced to waive Isa Abdul Kudus for a failed physical. His neck injury is worse than it was to be expected, and according to Joe Schott of the Palm Beach Post, it is very likely that his career is over. So our condolences to him, and we hope he lands on his feet.
Yeah, that's the right thing. I mean, I think about that with players like Jordan Cameron. Even I know his was a concussion, but if you're at that situation in life where you've made several $1 million, and assuming you've been smart with it, I just don't think it's worth it for guys like that to put their health at risk. And so it's unfortunate because on the personal side, you got to feel for the guy. He's young in his prime, and he just in one play his career is over. And I feel for the Dolphins side because they weren't planning on needing to look for a starting safety right now, and that injury has necessitated that. So I hope maybe he'll make it back on the field and do some rehabilitation. But in any event, he was a good player while he was here. It's just a lot like Delmas, isn't it, Lewis? You get a safety in and he's doing well, and it just can't keep him healthy. It's a tough situation.
I will forever be bitter towards the Carolina Panthers. And Duke, I'm sorry, but I am. That practice field, not only like, and it's not even like it was just a Delmas thing. That field was so bad that they not only took out Delmas for the year, they took out their own wide receiver, Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, I will forever be bitter towards the Panthers for not taking better care of their field because they took out one of my favorite players. So, I So hopefully Delmas is doing well wherever he is, and hopefully Abdul Kudus can land on his feet wherever he goes. I don't think he'll be playing football anymore, so I hope he has a backup plan for his life. So before we wrap up today, because we talked about a lot of stuff, and there will be more to talk about, so we may even do a show next week. But I think I feel obligated to bring this up because we haven't really talked quarterback yet. So let's go ahead and finish this show off. Should the Dolphins bring in Jay Cutler? Yes or no?
Come on, Lewis. No way. Here's one thing to watch. It's going to be very interesting because obviously the Browns did this unorthodox trade to get Osweiler.
They just wanted the pick, not Osweiler.
Well, they wanted the pick, and so they're either going to trade or cut him. But let's say they cut him. And the way the NFL works is his huge cap hit is Cleveland's responsibility. Now, if you are a team and you sign him, whatever percentage of that you pay him in contract, then you lift that off of Cleveland, right? And so you can right now, as a team, you can sign him to the league minimum. He's going to get paid a massive amount of money from Cleveland. And granted, he didn't have a great season in the Texans, but to me, he's still a serviceable backup quarterback. And so he's going to be interesting to me because I think there's going to be a team in the NFL that gets a backup quarterback really cheap. And so I just throw that out there because teams have to pay. Look what the Dolphins pay Matt Moore right now to be the backup quarterback. He becomes very intriguing if you can pay him peanuts to be your backup while Cleveland foots the bill. You know what I mean, for his big contract. That's got to be enticing for a team that needs a quarterback because he gives you a very economic option at backup.
So Duke, any responses on the Cutler?
No, I mean, he's not coming in here. I mean, yeah, but what it was, I think what it was, Ian Horton tweeted it out basically that the Cutler to Miami rumors were all stemming from Cutler's side. Basically, he really likes Gase, would love to play for Gase.
So he's basically putting it out there. Coach, please take me back.
Well, I mean, let's say Miami side basically like if Tannehill's not healthy and can't start, then we would bring him in just with a chance to start. But I mean, there's no need to waste money on him. I don't think he would come in here anyway, even if he likes Gase, simply for the fact that there are other teams out there that need a starting quarterback that could pay him more money and guarantee that he starts. start, I mean, if he goes to the Jets, which was the link that I read today, he
Then
starts
we're fine.
automatically. I mean,
I
there's no competition there.
I think
And
that's
the Jets,
exactly what's going to happen. I think he's going to the Jets. That's just my gut
well,
feeling.
assuming they don't trade Trevor Simeon, that was the other thing that's going on. So who knows
More
what's going to
crappy
happen?
quarterbacks.
That's isn't that the Jets right now? Just one to go into. If I feel like they're the Dolphins after the Marino years, where they just kept bringing in subpar quarterback after subpar quarterback. So
Like, aren't you glad to have Ryan Tannehill? Sheesh.
it is again a testament to Adam Gase, though, because I'll bet you Jay Cutler would love to come and play for him, because when Adam Gase was helping, Jay Cutler was suddenly good again. You remember that? Like a couple years ago, suddenly Jay Cutler was good. And everybody's like, well, that's because Adam Gase is putting them into positions to succeed. And so that's why these guys are staying. And that's why Miami, hopefully for a long time now, are going to have free agents that want to come here, because these guys want to make Pro Bowls. These guys that want big deals. This is a guy that can get that for you. If you play for Adam Gase, he will put you in a position to succeed. And you've already got, in a short period of time for his career, multiple players, like Kenny Stills, like Jay Cutler, that have had great careers with Gase around. So hopefully that will be a trend that continues for many years to come.
I mean, there's just too much out there. Too many teams that have a need at quarterback. That would take Cutler before he would come here to be a backup, before Miami would even want him here. So no, that's not happening. I don't see any quarterback coming here. I mean, not anybody with a name. It'd be like a T.J. Yates or something. I mean, somebody like that. It's not going to be a name guy. I mean, because it sounds like that Cousins is going to be signing his franchise tag. He's going to be staying in Washington at least for this year. So if you're San Francisco, you've got all this cap space. You put together a team. Why not sign Jay Cutler for? They just signed Brian Hoyer, but why not sign Jay Cutler to a 1-year deal? With he gets his money. He gets a chance to start. If he does well, you can keep him. If not, get rid of him and then sign Cousins next year.
Here's what I predict for Cutler, though, guys. I don't think he's going to sign for a while, and here's why. I don't think, with Jay Cutler's history, I mean, the guy is kind of a locker room issue. He always has been, and so he's hard to coach. And I don't see him as an ideal person, as a team, somebody you bring in to be your starter and start grooming his eventual replacement. I just don't see him being a good fit for that scenario. And so I don't think you're going to see a team go grab Jay Cutler right away with the idea that, all right, we're going to have Jay Cutler start this year, and we're also going to draft a first-round quarterback for him to start grooming. I think it's going to be a scenario where somebody gets hurt. And, for whatever team, and Miami would be one of them. If they started in the preseason, Ryan Tannehill has a massive injury, suddenly Jay Cutler might be in the mix then, as the guy that you can bring in and start for a year or two. But because I don't think he's going to be a good mentor, I think he'll just kind of float around for a little bit. I don't think anybody's eager to bring him in and say, here's our guy that's going to be our quarterback the next 4 years. And unless somebody's willing to give Jay Cutler a 3-year deal at least, he's just going to sit and wait. That's what I think.
I honestly asked the question as a joke. I didn't think we were actually going to get answers. So, I mean, kudos to you two. You guys can make a good discussion out of pretty much anything.
Well, this is the most odd quarterback situation I remember in a while, because you've got some really interesting scenarios out there. You've got Tony Romo, who is a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, clearly the best available quarterback if he's healthy. But he's had a lot of trouble staying healthy. And so there's option that you have on the table. Let's say you are the Jets or the Browns or a team that desperately needs a quarterback.
The Browns are going for Garoppolo. It's stupid, but yes, that's what they're doing. So
yeah,
the Browns off the list.
Yeah, but here you are. So if you're the Browns, you're going to. New England is not going to, with Tom Brady being almost 40, they're not just going to give him away. And so they're going to need a massive amount of picks for them to give him up. And if you're Cleveland, you're nuts to be giving up multiple first-round picks or a first-round pick.
Your point. Chad, your point?
Well, it's the Browns. It's the Browns. But as you look at the availability out there right now, you've got Colin Kaepernick. Nobody really is excited to bring him in because of the controversy he brings along. You've got Jay Cutler. Again, typical locker room problems. He's really been up and down. And so as you look at the quarterback market on what's out there, what do you do? I mean, if you're a team right now, is you just roll the dice and try to go get Deshaun Watson or something and hope he turns into the next great, mobile quarterback. Who's the guy? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Who's the Seattle quarterback?
Russell Wilson.
Is he going to be a Russell Wilson, and you pull it off? Or do you say, I think we're going to go ahead and bring in Jay Cutler, because what is Jay Cutler's ceiling? And so that's going to be a very difficult. I'm just very glad we have Ryan Tannehill, and I hope as the fan base out there, there's always up and down on Ryan Tannehill, but I would not want to have to be a GM right now and try to decide, do I get a rookie? Do I get Jay Cutler? Do I get Tony Romo? Do I get Colin Kaepernick? Because there's no obvious good quarterback you want to be saddling up for your whole season to ride on. So there's going to be a GM. Jay Cutler and Colin Kaepernick are the type of quarterbacks that get GMs fired.
I forgot about Kaepernick.
But I mean, he's in the middle of his prime. He's extremely talented, but obviously he's a PR nightmare. And so, do you want to take on that situation or not?
What was that?
Chad hit on a point there that a lot of fans, particularly ones that I've filmed on the Insider, have talked about, is people are like, we need to get rid of Tannehill. We need to find a better quarterback. And my first response is, where? And then you look at this quarterback market. You've got a draft. You've got a team like Cleveland who is sitting there with a number 1 overall pick, and they're not thinking about a quarterback. They're thinking of trading picks to get somebody else's backup.
Yeah.
You've got the Bears sitting there at 3. They could have probably any choice of quarterback they want, and they go out and sign Mike Glennon to a bunch of money. You've got the Bears, or not the Bears, the 49ers, who were trying to trade for Kirk Cousins, or they were talking about that. So you've got all the quarterbacks in the draft that apparently nobody really wants, at least not high up. I mean, you didn't see this problem in 2012. I mean, it was pretty much, RG3, Luck, we're going to come in and start. Tannehill was kind of, maybe, and then he started. Other guys started. You didn't see that with 2014 class, really. I think that was the Mortals class, right?
Then Mariota and Winston.
Yeah, I mean, these guys came out and started. So you have that situation, and nobody wants them. So if a fan tells me, well, we need to replace Tannehill, are you looking at one of those guys? I mean, really? The teams that need quarterbacks, they're signing guys like Mike Glennon, so they don't have to draft one of these guys. Or maybe they are, and just, that's their plan. But then you look at the free agent market. Would you really want to take any of these quarterbacks over Ryan Tannehill? Would you want Jay Cutler or Colin Kaepernick over Ryan Tannehill? I mean, sure, Colin Kaepernick's played in the Super Bowl, but, what has he done since then? He hasn't done much since Jim Harbaugh left. So it's like the fan base they see Tannehill as easily replaceable or not as good, and then you compare him to the situation of actually attempting to get a quarterback, and you see what kind of a colossal, dumpster fire that is, and you don't want a part of it. It's like Matty Infante said today on Twitter. It's like you see all these quarterbacks that people are trying to get, and I'm glad I've got Ryan Tannehill, because if Ryan Tannehill was on the free agent market right now, he would be the first one gone.
Oh, he'd be getting a massive deal right now. Tannehill would be.
I mean, the Bears would have laughed at Mike Glennon. They would have signed Ryan Tannehill. You would have heard about it first thing on Tuesday. It wouldn't have been wait until Thursday to hear about it. That would have been like, 6-year, $120 million deal or something. I mean, because when you're in desperate need of a quarterback, you do these things. So it is what it is. And, I'm glad I've got Ryan Tannehill. He may not be Aaron Rodgers by any means, but he's certainly better, and Miami's in a much better quarterback situation than all of those other teams that are scrambling around for, everybody else's seconds.
All I will say is that if Cleveland does somehow give the Patriots what they want, because I really feel like these Browns are thinking, well, we've got the picks to spare. They have 26 picks in the next 2 years. They have 2 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts. For each draft, they have 2 first-round picks. So that's kind of scary to think about. These guys could draft an army of young star players and develop them, and they're going to give a jackpot to the Patriots for a guy who, based on history, will probably not amount to much, because name one backup to Tom Brady who has really panned out. And if anybody tells me Brian Hoyer, I will laugh at them, because Brian Hoyer has not panned out. Everybody mocks him too.
I tell you what, Lewis, if the Browns trade a high number 1 to the Patriots for Garoppolo
and more, they'll give more than that.
I just feel bad for Cleveland fans, because I'm looking at it like, okay, so you've consistently been one of the worst teams in the NFL for the last few years, and last year they had the ability to take Carson Wentz, for example. Now, is Carson Wentz going to be good or bad? I don't know, but I'm sure the Eagles feel pretty good about having him right now versus trying to figure out if they should pick up Cutler or Kaepernick. And so you're Cleveland. You passed on the option to get Carson Wentz to acquire draft picks, and if you are just going to turn around and give those draft picks to New England for Garoppolo, a guy they could have drafted 3 or 4 years ago, it starts to border on insane for the Browns. But that's why the Browns are where they're at, I guess, is rather than getting a franchise quarterback, they're bringing in RG3. And so and maybe Garoppolo will pan out, but I just look at the history of quarterbacks that looked good in New England that really weren't that good. And so there's a list of them, like Matt Cassell. There's an example. Didn't he get a big contract to start? Was it the Vikings or somebody? And I just don't see what Garoppolo has done in my mind that I would want to give up a really high pick to go get him. I mean, the Browns they need to use those picks and start drafting number 1 picks in the draft, not handing them over to the Patriots. But if they do, I am scared to death, guys, that New England is going to position themselves to get their hands on Christian McCaffrey. Because if they do, it's going to be a nightmare for the rest of the AFC, because that guy's skill set matches so well with what the Patriots do. It would just be a nightmare if they got their hands on him.
Well, I think one thing you're seeing with the Patriots this year is they're paying for guys that normally don't do this in free agency. I think they're kind of sensing that the end is near. At least the Brady run is near. I mean, yeah, they run that little dink and dunk offense, so it doesn't. You can do that for a while, but even what Jason Taylor said, time is undefeated. That age will catch up to him at some point, and and Bill Belichick's not a young guy. Man, he's close to 70, getting up there. I don't. At some point, he's gonna be like, I don't want to coach anymore. Does he want to keep going with a guy like Garoppolo? Does he want to gear up? Is he trying to bank picks for a trade-up situation? And if I'm Cleveland, that's what I'm doing. Is I'm making these picks because the 2018 quarterback class looks like it's going to be a lot better. Now, I have warned people, because I remember in 2012, fans were saying, well, we should have kept Matt Moore and waited until the 2013 draft so we could get Landry Jones and Matt Barkley. And we all see how that turned out.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of gauge that a little bit. But you already know this draft class isn't the best in terms of top.
I'm going to be dead honest. I think guys like Kaiser and Watson are getting bad raps, and I'm really starting to feel like I don't want to get into a really deep conversation this late into the show. We're supposed to be wrapping up as it is, but I'm really starting to feel like Brandon Howard's thought process towards why Kaiser and Watson aren't getting many looks is starting to prove itself to be true.
I don't think so, because I think a lot of people are high on Watson. I think the problem is, and I think Rob Profit had talked about this, is basically Clemson was kind of a, quick one-read offense. I don't know if that's true or not. And I really don't think that, fans maybe think that way. I don't think the front office does. I mean, if they think Deshaun Watson's the guy, I think he's the guy. Kaiser, I think, is a little bit that first game they played against Texas, and he went off, and everybody's like, "Oh, this guy's gonna be great," and then he kind of fell off. So I think that just as far as talent-wise, these guys have talent. It's not refined like you would want from a high first-round pick. I mean, these are
But
guys
then why?
that you can. I
Then
mean, these
why
are
are
guys
they?
that kind of like Jared Goff in a sense. He was probably on the farther end of the spectrum in terms of needing development. But I think you look at a guy like Deshaun Watson and you say, all right, here's a guy that I am comfortable with drafting. And I think Mike Mayock said it during the combine. These are guys that you don't have a problem drafting in the first round, but you don't expect them to start year one, or at least early in year one. This is not a guy like, Jameis Winston that you're like, all right, here, this is the first overall pick. Go out there and start. Have at it. You felt comfortable with him doing that. You felt comfortable with Mariota doing that. You just don't feel as comfortable with these guys. So I think it's just a matter of these guys need a little seasoning, need a little development. The 18 class, I think the guy's name is Josh Allen, quarterback from Wyoming. I think a lot of people are high on him. I know Josh Rosen is in that class. People were high on him. These were guys that I think a lot of people were kind of expecting to be, top of the line guys. They just weren't either draft eligible or weren't coming out. So if you're Cleveland and you've got picks, you've got weapons that you can move around in 18 draft and get your guy if you wanted to. You're just looking at it like, all right, do I want to wait for a guy like Allen, who, I saw some tape of that guy. He looks really good. You want to wait for a guy like that, or do you want to take a guy like Deshaun Watson if he's there at 12 and say, all right, one guy I'm comfortable with that I can come in and he can start day one, or where I can wait and let this guy simmer, kind of slow cook, and then start him after a year. I don't know. It's how you feel about your evaluation. So for me, I'm glad I don't have to, I'm glad the Dolphins don't have to get a quarterback in this draft, because there's just not one out there that you're like, they all have flaws, but there's not one out there that you can say, I drafted this guy in the first round, and I'm comfortable starting in day one, knowing that, full well he's going to come in and play like a rookie. But these guys, you feel more comfortable kind of letting them sit and wait than starting. I think that's what it is. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything negative or biased toward those guys. I just think it's just, it's just the way they played the position. They just need to be developed a little more. And also, you could have said the exact same thing about Ryan Tannehill. He came in and started day one, but
Garrard was going to play over him.
Yeah, he had 19 starts in college. He went from being a wing T quarterback in high school, where it's basically that triple option mess. He was a wide receiver a couple of years, and everybody says, well, he was in the quarterback meetings. Yes, he wasn't out on the field learning things like pocket prep. You can watch it, like I said, with Parker. You can watch this stuff and learn it in the classroom and on video. It's different when you're actually out there on the field. So, what you're seeing from Ryan Tannehill, year 1 and 2, and even year 3, was what you would expect to see a college senior getting. Those are the snaps the college seniors getting, then come into the league. So you could have said the exact same thing about Ryan Tannehill that you could say about Deshaun Kaiser.
I don't know. It just feels weird, dude, because look, Mitch Trubisky is getting a ton of hype, and he's only played 13 games.
Yeah, it's just about developing those guys, and part of me wonders, like, are teams like the Browns, are they even admittedly themselves just saying we don't have either the patience or the personnel to develop the quarterback? Because are they afraid to take? If I'm the Browns, I'd take 2 of them. When Jimmy Johnson built the Cowboys, his first 2 picks were Troy Aikman and Steve Walsh, and obviously Aikman ended up being the quarterback, but he realized you got to have your starting quarterback. And so if I'm the Browns, I would draft a quarterback this year, and maybe with the 12th overall pick, and see how he pans out. And if you really feel good about him, develop him all year. And if you don't, draft another one next year.
In this draft class, in this draft class, you use all the picks. Don't give anything to New England for Garoppolo. It's just logic, man. It's logic. Matt Castle, Ryan Mallett, Brian Hoyer, like Rohan Davey. How about that? None of these guys.
Duke hit it on the head. Tom Brady's about 40. Bill Belichick's about 70. And who knows Garoppolo better than anybody? And that's those guys. And if Garoppolo is the next great quarterback, if he's really good, do you really think the Patriots would even be entertaining letting him go? I mean, you got to wonder, like, well, the Patriots are willing to trade him. Why is that?
The Patriots are willing to trade anybody who gives them more picks so they can grab a new superstar.
Well, my point is, if Garoppolo was ready to be the next Tom Brady, I just don't think the Patriots would even be talking about trying to trade him. But
that's true.
I'm guessing they realize that they know what he is, what his limitations are, and if the Browns want to, give a pile of picks over to the Patriots to find that out, so be it. But I just don't see Deshaun Watson or whoever their highest pick is in the quarterback class. I would much rather roll the dice, draft that guy, and you get him at an affordable contract. And the worst case scenario is he doesn't pan out, and you move on. But at least you're not strapped with a huge contract, and you didn't just give all the picks over to the team that everybody's struggling to catch already in the AFC.
Yeah. How much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet that at this point I'm saying when Garoppolo moves on and Jacoby Brissett becomes the new backup, how much do you want to bet that in a couple of years everybody's going to be inquiring about Brissett's availability?
If people talk about the Dolphins need to do that, well, let's get the trade bait thing going on. It works for New England because they have Tom Brady and they have Belichick. I mean, Belichick went 11-5 with Matt Castle, and
3-1 with Garoppolo and Brissett.
Yeah, I mean, so he knows how to win games without having to have Brady. So that doesn't work for the Dolphins. Maybe it will in a few years if things keep going the way we want them to go, and Gase becomes the next great head coach, and he drafts a guy in the 4th round, and he's sitting behind Ryan Tannehill, and they say, oh, well, let's get this guy. We can trade for Miami's backup because, he's trained under Gase and whatever they use for Belichick. But, I mean, kind of back to what we were talking about there is, to go along with that is, I think a lot of these teams like the Browns want a veteran guy that kind of knows how to kind of maneuver in a locker room more so than a rookie quarterback. And one thing that I saw, Louis Riddick, that's his name. He's a guy from ESPN. He tweeted out that unless you have the infrastructure necessary to develop a quarterback, that this isn't your year to get a quarterback, at least not high. So that's why I think, what Miami really needs, if they want good players to follow them, is these quarterbacks to rise up, these running backs and receivers to rise up, positions they don't need, and people take them. But I could see a team like the New Orleans Saints drafting a quarterback in the 1st round as a heir apparent to Breeze. I could see the Cardinals taking a quarterback in the 1st round. They've got Palmer, who's an older quarterback, never really stayed healthy for a full season throughout his career for long periods of time. So I could see guys like that. If these teams like Cleveland that it seems where quarterbacks seem to go to die, that do they have that infrastructure in place where they can say, all right, I can take this guy at 1 or 12 and I am confident that I can develop him. I mean, honestly, Miami was that spot a few years ago. I think with a guy like Gase, if they ever need to move from Tannehill, that there will be an infrastructure in place there that you would feel confident, all right, if Miami takes this quarterback in the 1st round or wherever they take him, Gase can develop him. That's a question for teams like the Bears and the 49ers and the Browns. Do they have the system in place where they feel confident drafting this young guy and developing him into a franchise quarterback? Or would they rather take an established guy, even if he's a backup, and putting him in the system, knowing that he's been in the pros, he kind of knows the works. He can work around cover some things that a rookie could not.
Yeah. All right. Well, all I know for sure is that if the Browns give a bazillion picks to the Patriots for Garoppolo, they are not very smart, but that would be right in line with what the Browns have done for the past feels like 2 decades. So, my apologies to all Browns fans out there for thinking that Garoppolo is actually going to go somewhere. Because I mean, props to them if Garoppolo does turn out to be the real deal. I mean, kudos. I just can't see it happening based on past history, but I think that if they would be just better off using those picks on a rookie quarterback, hoping that it pans out, or even keeping Robert Griffin III. I mean, I would rather take RG3 than Garoppolo because at least RG3 started and did well for at least 1 year. So I personally would just not give the Patriots anything. They don't need any more help.
One bit of Dolphins news: Jabal Sheard, the meeting has ended, and he left without a contract. So we don't know if the Dolphins. I didn't see that the Dolphins offered him one. It just said he left, and there was no deal in place. So
well, look, you know what though? You know what? Seriously though, I'm gonna be like, let's be blunt about this. Jabal Sheard literally lives like 15 minutes away from the facility. If they decide they want to sign him, all he has to do is drive over there and sign the paper. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, and one thing that I think needs to be noted was this happened last year too. The Dolphins would bring in guys for visits, and generally, the kind of rule of thumb is if you bring them in for a visit, you need to sign them. But I think they let guys visit last year and then leave, and they offered contracts, maybe took them or didn't. So I think this kind of falls in line with that. I think they talked to him. They got a feel for one another, and the Dolphins, they talked some money. They said, this is where we're at. This is what we're willing to offer. You know, if you can find something else, you know, best to you. You know, so I think a part of me hopes that Sheard would like to stick it to the Patriots for not re-signing him, and wants to sign here so he can get revenge twice a year. But I don't know, maybe he's not that kind of guy.
We'll see. All right. We ran pretty long, but there was a lot to talk about, so I don't really feel that bad about it. So maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do this again next week after we've settled down, because mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, the Dolphins are not done yet. There's still a lot that needs to be done. And after that, it's time to look at the draft. And hopefully we had hoped to get another guest in here, but we were unable to make that connection. So hopefully next week we'll be able to bring Duke back in and we can talk some draft with our other guest, and Chad will be back, and who knows who else we'll bring in. I think when we're talking draft, there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different ways to approach things. So with that said, thank you all so much for joining us. Small announcement that I think needs to be made before we sign off. PhinManiacs has been revamped, ladies and gentlemen. If you have been on the website recently, you will notice that the site design has been changed somewhat, and the sole purpose for doing that is that the site is now mobile friendly. I had been told many times that the site is not, and now it is. So if you want to check out an article on your phone, or if you want to look up some certain player and news about him, you can check it out on your phone, and you'll be able to read everything as if it was no big deal. That includes any film reviews that goes up, because GIFs work out just fine on any device. So there's a lot of stuff going down with PhinManiacs, and I intend to begin and making more changes as time goes on. So thank you all so much for supporting us for all these years, and I intend to do my best to continue making PhinManiacs the best Dolphins website on the internet. So with that said, thank you once again for joining us. You can listen to this on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and of course our YouTube channel. And we will see you all next week for another episode of the PhinManiacs.com podcast. Good night, everybody.